Friends, we are very happy to inform you that e-modules are prepared for B.Ed program at Telangana by the School of Education, Osmania University under Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching Scheme MHRD New Delhi. It's indeed our pleasure to share with the teacher educators and the prospective teachers and get maximum benefit out of it. It's a first of its attempt by us. We continue to add many more such lessons to share with you all.
Hello friends, let us again come back to one more lesson. Last two lessons you all know we did with philosophy and education. As you know me already that I am Professor Mrinalini, Dean Faculty of Education and Coordinator School of Education. Let us focus today on one more very important and very interesting lesson on human nature of human nature in a connotation of syllabus point of view, nature of human nature. So you can understand why this particular topic has been introduced for teacher education for the student teachers. I will gradually keep you, making you to understand the meaning of this nature of human nature. All of you know the nature, the generic nature, all of you know about the nature, how complex is this nature, how difficult it is to understand, how enjoyable and pleasurable to deal with this nature and live in this nature and enjoy this nature, our natural nature. So is the case with the nature of the child and nature of human being. It is also very complex, very interesting and very difficult to understand and very difficult to reach out and really give what the child really needs. So when you really look at this whole lesson, it tries to make you to understand what is this nature of human nature and how we can really connect to this child by understanding its nature, and then how does it influence various components of human nature. When you really understand, you would know what is the secret of this human nature. Maybe from all Eastern point of view or Western point of view, you may have different things to understand, but when you really look at this whole human nature, let us try to evolve a very generic theory or a holistic theory of what is this nature of human nature. So various dimensions, various points of view, various perspectives, when you try to look at and try to grasp and comprehend what is the nature of human nature from various points of view, then as a teacher you evolve a perspective of your own and you will really come out with an understanding about the nature of the child. What to give importance is up to you for your discretion, depending upon that child and that context and that relationship and that requirement and need for you to teach the child. So that is very important to understand the nature of the child. So when we are trying to understand to develop a broad theory of human nature, I would like to raise some of the questions. Do you know the nature around you where you are living in, and how did you know about it? Is it enough if you know the nature around you, or what is the nature of human being? Especially you look at yourself and try to understand the nature of yourself. Similarly, you understand the nature of the child. What are the generic traits? What are those important genetic traits that you would like to know? That is what would be our debate in the due course of our discussion. Can you know human nature observing the overt behavior of man just by looking at the outside of man or physical aspects of human being? Can you really understand what is the nature of man? That is the basic question we need to understand all through this discussion. And another very important question is, can this psychology or could this psychology respond to all these questions, like the self introspection or personal introspection? This personal introspection, generally we look into the spiritual side or the divinity side or the Eastern point of view. We understand this inner self through the introspection. Even psychology will give a methodology or method as introspective method. But can this psychology really help us to understand through this personal introspection? Can it answer to these all questions? This is the main fundamental thing that we would like to know and understand it. So let us just try to look at this broad theory of human nature. And this particular broad theory of human nature will help us to understand what are the different parameters or what are the different generic traits that we are looking at to understand this individual inner self or self of the individual, how it evolves over a period of time. It is because of so many dimensions or so many aspects. It could be our own mind body. There is a long time immemorial, there is a huge debate. Descartes talks about mind and body reality, whether it is mind real or body real. So various perspectives, various philosophies have come out with so many debates about whether mind alone is real or body alone is real or both are real. This kind of debate was really, a long time debate or time immemorial debate is going on. So like that, we have different dimensions where we need to understand. One such aspect is mind and body. We will come to each one of them as we go on discussing. The other issue very important is we are always bothered about our own will, whether it is already fixed or is it determined, already fixed, or is it keeps evolving. So these are all different types of understandings about the freedom of will we will discuss. Similarly, is it an integration process or integration of all these things, or is it modifiability of the nature? Can we modify the nature of the child? This is another very important debate. Then social nature, is it evolved through the socialization process or in the society, how the nature of the child has been evolved. And finally, it is the supernatural nature of the child, which is the ultimate of it. We can see a caption at the base of your, in the PPT I have given you, child by birth is innocent but civilization made it cruel. This is what Rousseau said in one of the contexts where he said, by birth all are divine and soul is divine, but over a period of time all our human race, in our civilization, in our cities, how the whole process is really a culprit to make the child as cruel. Child is not basically cruel. So this we can understand over a period of time in our discussion. So you look at this very important debate, this whole debate you need to understand to get insights for our own student teachers. All of you please focus on this thing. You can look at the picture how this human nature, mind, body, a sense of mind and body is one dimension of thinking. The other aspect is, on one side people keep thinking about only the hereditary as important. The other side people will be thinking it is the environment which is more important. So this dual debate made us to understand varied points of view. So when you look at the continuum, on one extreme it is the heredity, it is already fixed, everybody, so nature is fixed and it is predetermined because of the traits that they get from the past, that is from their own parents through the hereditary process. The other side, there are also debates of environmentalists where it is the society or the environment which creates all that in the socialization process that child becomes that particular nature of the child is evolved. So these two are the two extremities on our continuum in our debate, where we think about whether it is the body which is more important, which is nurtured, or it is the mind which is already there with certain pre-conceived or prefixed faculties or faculties of the brain are already there with our genes. So this two continuum debate we can understand. One is on one side it is the mind, the other side it is the body. So you just keep focusing whatever I am saying, these two words. On one side it is talking about the fixed one, the hereditary one. The other side evolved one through the environment, through the socialization process. So on one side it is the mind, the other side it is the body. And similarly, the one side it is the parent, who has contributed for our genes is the parent who is responsible, or environment, the teacher who has created the environment. Similarly, is it the home which is giving us something, a tradition or culture or values or whatever system we are evolving out? Is it the home or is it the society? That is the interrelationships, the contacts and the kind of socialization happens in the society. Is it the society? Is it the nature? By nature the child has some nature, hereditary nature by traits, or is it the nurture, the environment which is really nurturing you? It is really training you, or it is really making you as somebody. So is it the nature or nurture? Similarly, hereditary environment, is it determined, already fixed, or is it the freedom of will which has created something in a child? Is it the scripture that is which is already fixed, determined? Scripture, all our divine things, scriptures mention this is the child, this is the man, this is God, all that is already predetermined. So we can say, is it a scripture or is it the science? So on this continuum, if we try to understand the basic nature of the human being and mind-body debate, this in a way we can say, as a neutralist, we can understand not either of them are truly or completely or holistically correct, but both are right in their own ways. So we can say it is a product of both nature and nurture, or mind and body problem. So this debate we can understand very easily when you really look into all these aspects of human nature. In a continuation of this mind-body aspects, especially if you see today, most of the psychology, which was earlier called psychology as a discipline, now it has been evolved as a behavioral psychology, which is almost really taken the place of physics, like our normal sciences or natural sciences. It has taken the place of sciences. So we are calling now psychology as the behavioral sciences. So behavioral sciences, psychology is coming out with so many answers to so many problems, or even they are able to determine the personality of the child or human being through so many psychological tests which have been established through some of the evidences, and all those tests and theories of psychology have been established. So these psychological theories are really claiming that they can transform the behavior or change the behavior of the child. Is it right or is it true? We can understand from all these tests. We have aptitude tests, we have intelligence tests, we have theories of intelligence, personality, teaching. So many theories are there, so many tests are there based on these theories, and we are able to determine the personality, different traits of the personality, components of the human child through these all psychological tests. But we have a debate about this. Is it really can it really solve all those problems? Can it really determine the personality of the child? This is a major debate we need to understand in the due course of our discussion. Let us look at all these aspects in relation to these psychological aspects. So this debate of human nature as originally good, there is always a debate. The conventional view says that human nature is fixed, or originally it is good. As we said, divine soul, the child is divine soul, it is originally good. But there is a notion in the conventional Christian philosophy. They say, is it the moral character or is it already fixed one? This debate, when it is going on in the Christian doctrine of, they say, what is the Christian doctrine says? It is the original sin, the dictum that man by birth is a sinner, but he is a sinner and he cannot be perfected. So by nature or by birth, original sin, they use the dictum original sin. That means the dictum says man by birth is sinner and he cannot be perfected. So this is a conventional Christian doctrine's view, where it thinks that child is by birth he is a sinner, so he cannot be perfected. On the other side, the modern or liberalist point of view, they think they are very optimistic. On the other side, the Christian doctrine point of view, they are very pessimistic in their point of view. They think the child cannot be perfected. On the other side, liberalistic point of view, they think the child can be perfected because it is the optimistic way where the child evolves and he learns through so many things outside of him or through the environment and other influences. So these two debates always keeps us to think whether it is the psychological determinism is correct or something else is correct. So let us look at the next issue related to all these aspects. So you can look at idealistic point of view or naturalistic point of view or dualistic point of view or realistic point of view. So we were trying to understand from varied perspectives. Like idealistic point of view, they think only mind alone is real, and realist point of view, body alone is real. Dualist point of view, both mind and body as real. So this debates keeps on going on. When you try to ask people, where is this mind at all? Where is that mind at all? Then people cannot understand what is this mind. They think when you say mind as brain is a biological entity. So this brain is different from mind as mental faculties. So if we try to discipline that physical body, or can we discipline this physical body or control this physical body, but can we also control or discipline the mind? This is the basic question. See, when you are talking about the teaching process, is it the body which you are controlling or mind which you are controlling? Suppose, for instance, if there is a child sitting in your classroom, you may be disciplining them from physical entity, that making them to sit in one particular place, or maybe asking them to look at you physically. All these things can happen. But when it comes to their mind, can you control their mind? Their mind may be in their village, their mind may be with their mother, their mind may be with food. It could be anywhere. Can we control what we can control? Can we control mind or body or both? These are the whole debates related to mind and body debate when we talk about. Can we really go into further details of understanding this man's nature in terms of when you talk about understanding through the consciousness expressed through the memory, thoughts, and feelings which make one's selfhood? If you really understand what is this man's nature, let us understand from the selfhood point of view. When you look at the selfhood, that is the individual self, it is the memory, it is the thoughts, it is the feelings which make this one selfhood. So from that point of view, if we can understand the nature of man, I think we can better deal with the child and understand the child's nature. Another point of view, we can look at the social point of view or social nature of the child. It is mostly determined by the cultural aspects or tradition, values. That whole socialization process will determine the child's nature. How is that society? If you see Eastern society, Western society, or any type of society, that will have its own culture, its tradition, its value system, and food, delicacies, and all those things are attached to that particular culture aspect. So reason why we can even say sometimes social nature of the child is mostly determined based on the cultural determinism. So we can say that human behavior is influenced by the cultural factors rather than biological factors. That is the environmental in a way, or social nature of the child in a way, we can say. So for this, when you try to understand the social nature and mind-body relationship, further when we look into the internal side of the nature of the child, let us give them one task. Even you can give in your school when you go and teach as a teacher. Now we can have this exercise in the classroom also. You can think about yourself. What is the real nature of yourself? You may be thinking differently about the physical entities, your color, your structure, your body features, and all these things externally you may be thinking that you are that, but in reality that is not your real self. When you introspect yourself, you really know. All of you are well aware and familiar with the SWOT analysis, that is your self awareness you can do about your strengths, your weaknesses, what are the opportunities you have, what are the challenges you have. If you make this four quadrant analysis and introspection while writing down all those your strengths and weaknesses, what are the opportunities you have, what are the strengths you have, what are the difficulties or the challenges that you have, through this SWOT analysis, if you do, you understand. Let us not go into that. We will have this, you can do even at home and come back, and we will share in the next class about the SWOT analysis experiences that you have. So from the modern times, based on the motives, and education system is directed to motivate the human conduct. We all think from psychological point of view, I can motivate the children, I can do everything, but we don't really understand that real inner self of the child, and we don't try to really bring out that potential from the child through the very different strategies and dimensions that we use in the classroom. Similarly, teacher can plan those curricular experiences in order to release those extra energies, that pent up emotions that are there, because most of the children, they suffer from those pent up emotions which they cannot control, that will really become the detrimental factors for them to become somebody else than what they really potentially can become, some self of their own. So this is how you can keep on introspecting yourself, not only mere psychological point of view, even from the philosophical spiritual point of view. You can introspect and do SWOT analysis. You realize what it is. I'm just giving you a pictorial kind of understanding. Take out your face and look at your face. That is, external point of view. But internal point of view also you can do. From spiritual entity, you can introspect yourself through the process of meditation. You realize what is the real nature of yourself. Similarly, when you look at the social relationships, are they internal or are external? This is whole debate all the time we have. Human nature, most of the times we look human beings as social beings, so they are getting influenced by the society, and that is what they are going to become. Sometimes social behavior is also based on our social instincts. Sometimes we are influenced by our instincts and emotions and the other issues. So these things, man, always entangled within these all instincts and social relationships that you go in and out of your life day in and day out. So this whole socialization and civilization process will make you somebody from the external point of view. And sometimes becoming independent in a social process, you may not get influenced by all these social factors and socialization issues, but you may become somebody else, that what is the real nature that is within inside of you. So this sometimes also becomes, both the things get influenced, or influence the child to become somebody. So we can say in a way, mutual dependence as a part of socialization in a culture, that the child will become somebody. In other words, let us raise another debate and discussion, how schools train a child from schoolyard to battlefield. That means everything that you are training the child, nurturing the child in such a way, whether it is internal or external, that debate we have started already. So from one point of view, we can say social relations are external, the curriculum should not be prescriptive. One viewpoint is that it is all external, the relationships are external, culture is external, all these are external. So curriculum should not become a prescriptive one, because it keeps changing as the time, as the society, as the people, as the interrelationships, as the things keep changing, our personalities keep grooming and becoming that. So in that particular context, we can say curriculum cannot be prescriptive, that is already fixed. When you say prescriptive, it's already fixed. We cannot have that rigid and fixed kind of curriculum, because children cannot be having that kind of fixed kind of things in the environment. From the other point of view, that the child is already having a pre-nature. So here we have to leave it to the freedom of the child, choice of the child, and that is called as the internal aspect which gets influenced the child. So that real nature will influence the child, that is what the child will become. So this whole social nature dependent upon so many aspects and socialization process itself. So we can say that is one dimension we have understood now. The other dimension is integration. Is it one of these aspects or all those aspects? So we can say it's a combination, or it's a coalition of both of these things, integration of both biological aspects and also other environment aspects. So like environment and the heredity we said, so these two things can really bring out the child as a perfect child. So on one side, Christian dictum, you have seen the child cannot be perfected, the doctrine of sin, like based on the Adam and Eve story, all of you know how they have eaten a forbidden fruit. Because of that, they gave birth to the first human being. So that is how the sin part of it. The other part of it is the liberalist point of view is no, the child can be perfected. So these all things have a long debate and discussion, and people have their own perspective to accept or reject. And in that particular connotation, when you look at the teacher, when they are understanding the child, they look at the child as, is it possible to modify the nature of the child? From one point of view, as I told you, the pessimistic point of view, or the sin doctrine of doctrine, Christianity doctrine, sin point of view, no, they cannot be modified. And the other side is they can be modified. So these two debates keep going on. That is all is prescribed, that is all dependent upon whether it is a prescriptive curriculum or a dynamic curriculum or a flexible curriculum. So these two kinds of strategies or perspectives or methodologies are being adopted in the system of education. So the debate keeps on continuing whether we can modify the nature of the child or not. Can we totally modify it or partially modify it? This all depends on how you understand the nature of the child and how you wanted to bring that form, that kind of a change that you can bring in the child. When you look at in this particular context, the whole debate of IQ and EQ, we all know IQ is fixed. Every child has got some certain certain aspect of their intelligence by birth. They have come with some intelligence or level of intelligence. All our psychological tests of intelligence are really determining the IQ, that is intelligent quotient of the child, which we have been talking all through these years and making it as most predominant in the whole educational circles. And we have been focusing on really training the mental faculties of the child to enhance their intelligence or intellectual potentials. But we never gave away thought or a way to look at the emotional quotient that is most important. So that is being given in the modern times more importance, and we are saying today intelligence, there is no correlation between intelligent quotient and emotional quotient. This whole debate is keeps on going on. So people, most of, even till today, many people traditionalist point of view that it should be determined and children should be given a lot of training in the mental faculties to raise their IQs. But even if they have IQs, I'll give simple example, all those IIT students who are very high in their IQs, they are not having the emotional quotient or emotional balance, so they are all committing suicides. We all know about it. So when you're really understanding the nature of the child, it is not very important, or I'm not saying not important, but at the same time not so important as much as it is important EQ, because after all we have to live a balanced and emotionally balanced and a composed life, harmonious life, to lead a life in a peaceful way, happily. So in that context, if you have little less IQ, it's not a big issue. But if you don't have EQ, it's very difficult to live and survive in this world as a peaceful, happy human being. So in that particular context, we need to understand this debate of intelligent quotient, is it important, or emotional quotient, is it important. Now in the modern times, further we are also talking about SQ part of it. So this determinism related to IQ and flexibility or liberalism is related to EQ, and further we are talking about spiritual intelligence in the modern times, where we are giving more importance. Even if you see Maslowian need hierarchy theory, it starts with the physical needs and it ends with the self-actualization needs. Self-actualization comes only with the spiritual quotient. So that is also more important. Today many people, after achieving everything, even a scientist or anybody, politician, ultimately they approach the spiritual entity. That is what we call it as a spiritual quotient, which is most important than anything else. So this can be attained through the meditation process. So there we try to understand the nature of the man in a different connotation. So we can say all of us can understand the nature of human being, that human being by nature, he is a creature. We all know it is a highly evolved creature, where we think that destiny of the man is already fixed from the spiritual point of view. From the material point of view, no doubt we can change them. So similarly, man is destined to live in the spiritual world because summoned by God, live within him, his own kingdom. This is how we feel. There is a diagrammatic way I can make you to understand it. He lives more entities in the world, like plants are there, animals are there, so many things are there in this whole world as entities. But man being a very highly evolved individual, where intellect, he has more importance given to man because he has an intellect. Or is this intellect is will, that is will is our own power of discretion, our own power of taking decisions about varied things in our life. So sometimes we get a doubt whether this intellect is uh, really influencing this will, or will is influencing intellect. This is a whole debate that we are going to talk about. Is the will is intellect, is it evolved out of impulses, desires, or emotions? Is it more than these, or is it a faculty? So many questions come, and there are so many debates about this. Maybe we may not be able to complete all those discussions today. We will continue that in the later course of our discussions when we come out in the next class. So is it more than a faculty? Is the will or intellect, is it more than a faculty, that is mental faculty, something else? So like this, so many questions come into our mind. So this is a very huge a duality or dualistic debate which is going on one hand. The other hand is the will of the child, or is it the teacher's ability to really bring the change in the will of the child, or is it the teacher ability to create an environment through which the student learns? So these are all the questions which teacher has to go on questioning themselves, introspecting themselves, so that they can really make the destiny of the child and bring out or cull out this heredity and environment, bring out that will which is separate from the intellect, which we need to understand, and or is it that it has a close contact within itself? These are all the things we need to understand clearly when we look at the will of the child or intellect of the child. Similarly, is this will is free, or is it really having the freedom to take its own decisions? Yes, sometimes we say yes, man is the creator of his own destiny. That is one understanding we have. Sometimes it is a product of heredity and environment. So these are all the different debates which go on. Then we can raise so many questions and start reflecting on them and answering to our own questions. Please take these questions and start answering to all these things, then we can have a discussion. Is the will is intellect? Is it evolved out of impulses, desires, or emotions? Is it more than these things, or is it more than the faculty, mental faculty? Or is it really this kind of a debate is going on? So let us all look at it in the next class. You please come with all the answers for these all questions and start reflecting on these questions about your own self. So this is a huge debate that is going on. Is it freedom, or is it the determination or determinism that is really creating a huge debate in the human circles, or human thinking process, or human evolution process, and even nurturing process in our classrooms? Teacher is always puzzled about these two things. Some teachers opt for freedom, some teachers opt for determinism. This is all teacher centric and then student centric kind of curriculum will evolve. So one of the perspective also talks about the transcendental freedom of the will. Transcendental, when you say higher consciousness of the human being, where we talk about the transcendental freedom of the will. This theory views that individual itself is the source of energy and original cause. That means you yourself are. That's why I said no. Man is the creator of his own destiny. What even Vivekananda said in some context. So we can think of this particular theory where we can view that quite a different theory. Freedom occurs to those who are committed in the first instance, viewing novelty, time, and change as basic realities. So sometimes we connect to the outside world where we say this time which always keeps changing, and accordingly we keep changing. The other thing is no, it is the will, transcendental will, which is already predetermined. So this as I told you, the debate between determinism and freedom always have a kind of discussion and discourse where people have their own point of view and agreement to agree or disagree with these two debates. Similarly, when you look at holistically, I'll give you this freedom of debate between freedom of will and determinism from this particular diagrammatic view. You can look at all these things, what I just shared with you, you can understand. The human nature is freedom of will lies in responsibility, or is it motives? That means sometimes we get motivated by some other external forces, or is it just because my willingness to do something, so I did it? That is what inner consciousness we say. So with that we do sometimes we get motivated because of the environment, somebody else. Is it that? Or in other words, we can say freedom of will. The man is the author of his own deeds, his own destiny. That means whatever I reap, whatever I do, that I reap. So like that, our actions, our deeds, our whatever we do, that will give us the results. That's how, even as I already shared with you, Vivekananda said, we are the masters of our own destiny. So our own deeds will lead us to end with our own destiny. Similarly, man originating source. How, where this whole nature of human being has originated? What is the source of it? So we can say the energies that we have inside of us, and there is a causal relationship that is there, cause and effect relationship. Because of something, our emotions become some way become something. So like that, this whole process of influence of something, that causal relationships happen. Because of that, our nature becomes something, our man becomes something. Similarly, when we look at the self-active, we believe that human beings are self-active. That means we are ourselves doing something. So we are directed by our own self. We are determined by our own self. So whatever we are actively, that is what we have determined, or that is our own original nature. So like that, this whole debate of whether we have freedom, yes, we have freedom on one side. The other side, no, we are determined by somebody. We are influenced by somebody. Like a teacher makes a child to sit in one place, do something, and train rigorously their mental faculties to do this, to memorize that. So that is one dimension. It is possible happening now, the modern system, olden system of education. Now modern system is looking forward for creating a freedom to the child, autonomy to the child, and become what it wanted to become. So these two debates always have its own strengths and weaknesses, and it is being happening in our education fields. So this contradiction is always going ahead in terms of science and scripture. Science is what, evidence-based one. Scripture is one already predetermined one. So this debate keeps on asking us to understand and then stand at a particular point, take a particular point of view from our own point of view as a teacher. So these things we can understand. This is the relationship I was trying to explain to you. Then ultimately we end with the nature. When we understand supernatural nature is the ultimate one. As I told you, IQs, EQs, and then SQs. Now we are all hanging around as SQ is the ultimate, because people may not really realize when they are in the beginning of their educational development, or as a scientist or anybody. Ultimately, even a scientist ends up, I would just give you, it may look very simple and very laughable stock, but even ISRO scientists, when they are launching a spaceship, they break a coconut. This is something where you can understand the spiritual connotation, where you did all that, but ultimately you think, I am not responsible for that end result. It is somebody else, on the spirit which you are depending, the ultimate divine self which you are depending. This is how you can understand the natural nature of the child, because something, the divinity is there inside of the child. That divinity is called as supernatural nature of the child. Again, in this context, that Adam Eve, you can think about it, that is from the theistic point of view. But from the spiritual entity, when you look at, the purpose of education is to make a perfect human being, which being, by understanding and realizing the original inner nature and knowing one's own self. You should know your own self, that is one dimension, and you should also able to know the nature of the real nature of the human child, that is the divine child, that is the spiritual entity of the child. That is the real crux of the nature of the child. If you can understand these dualistic conceptions and debates about the social nature, integration of the nature, and mind body relationships, all these things, when you really uh, cull out and you realize ultimate is the spiritual entity. If you really can understand that spiritual entity of the child, you can really do justice to the child while teaching in the classroom, not doing any kind of injustice to its inner nature, and making him what he really is inside of him, and create a divine child in this world, to create a divinity in this world, in his being and becoming and all his processes, and he becomes that spiritual and divine child in this world and creates a divinity around him. Ultimately, let me just take one more point of view, tripartite. So soul, from Platonian Western point of view, what I'm talking to some extent from the Eastern point of view, self-realization, self-actualization, what we discussed in our education meaning. Similarly, here we can connect that one dimension is the appetite, that is the biological needs point of view. We have certain desires, so we have to attend to those desires. That is the appetite, what he calls them as physical desires. Even you can see in Maslowian need hierarchy theory also, he talks about biological needs are basic needs. Similarly, then it goes to the emotional side. The esteem needs are the emotional needs he talks, even in Maslowian need hierarchy theory. Similarly, Platonian one you can connect from the philosophy side. Spirited one, that is the emotional, which come from the heart. Then ultimately it is the rationality or the logical aspects which come, where it helps you to reach to that highest level of spiritual entity. So being an idealist, he must have thought of the rational aspects connected to the spiritual entity. So like that, ultimate is the spiritual one, where human beings realize themselves. So we understand now the whole lot of realization in one's self, and understanding the realized self, divine self, that is the child. Hope you understood the nature of the child. This will really help you to do justice in the classroom while teaching, to understand the real nature, the divine nature of the child. Thank you very much. Let us have some more queries and discussions on this topic that we have discussed so far.